Alrighty, here we go. Part 2 of the semester exam review. Let's see how many problems I can get through before I have to get reach my limit or whatever. So what do we have here? We're looking at number 17. The graph of y equals x squared is given below. Which other graphs would be more vertically compressed or wider? Okay, again, folks, sign does not matter. Okay, if it's a negative, that just makes it a reflection. So just remember, a negative would make it face down. But that is not what makes side if it's wider or compressed. What makes it closer if the number is between 0 and 1. And the closer to 0, the wider it gets. Okay, so if you ignore the sign here, you get 0.4 for this one. That's 1.7. Here's 0.8. And there you got a 3. So obviously the wider one would have to be that one because it's the closest to 0. Now, keep in mind, if I want to be a stretch, vertically stretch, that means narrower or thinner, narrower. The bigger the number, though, the more stretched it gets. So B would be one that would be the most narrow, the most stretched. Those might be helpful things to remember. And that's always determined by the number that's in front of the x squared. Okay? What are the solutions to the quadratic equation represented by the graph below? Okay, so you've got this quadratic equation. You care about where does it cross the x-axis. So what you would do there is, again, I'm going to zoom in for me. Notice right here, solutions, zeros, or roots all mean the same thing. They mean where do they cross the x-axis, the x-intercept. And in this case, they cross at -3, +4. That's all you got to do. Any quadratic equation, you can type it in and graph it and see where it crosses, and you'll be able to solve. Alright, so let's look at 19. What are the roots of this function? So here's another question. The difference between 18 and 19 is that they give you an equation, but they don't give you the graph. So you have to graph it, and when you graph it, you would see something that looks like it crosses at, well, that was bad. 1, 2, 3, it looks like it crosses at 2 and at 3, so the answer was 2, 3. That's it. You just graph it, see where it crosses, and there you go. If you want to, you can do a menu 5-1 trace, graph trace, and it would tell you there's zeros. So there you go. Which expression best represents the simplification of this expression? Multiply the big numbers. 4 times 7 is 28. Add the exponents. When you multiply, you add the exponents. If there had been an exponent on the outside, you would have multiplied. So keep that in mind. But here, we only have to do this. 3 times -5 is -2. -2 and plus -5 is -7. And 6 plus a -2 is +4. And I don't know why I'm putting a y, because I meant to put a z. Now, these two that have the negatives, they need to move to the bottom, so there's your answer, C. You need to remember your rules about working with exponent expressions, and you should be fine. What's the range of this function? Personally, I think the easiest thing to do here is to graph this function, then come up with a table pressing Control-T. And when you do that, you should see a table, x, y, or f of x, and at -2, you would be able to see that it's at -3. At 0, you would be able to see it's at -4. And at 4, you would see it's at 0. And those would be your 3 answers, because the question is range. Range is the y, domain is the x. So, not too bad. You can see how it works there. And that's pretty much it. There you go. Fairly easy. Not too bad. Alright, so let's look at the next set of problems. Alright, so number 22, which of the following best represented by the data in the following table? Which function is best represented by the data in the following table? Okay, so let's remember here. Like this right here, the y's repeat. So that means it has to be an x squared, so it can only be b. But also, let's remember, linear, you have a common difference, which means if you start subtracting, they give you the same answer. And exponential, you have a common ratio, which means if you divide, you get the same answer. So you might need to make sure you remember those things for the test. I would do my best to remember that. Okay, so let's see what's the next thing. The following expectations represent the amount of money why different people work for earning least money per hour. Okay, when you see that like word per, that's usually talking about a slope. So what is our slope? Slope is the number in front of the x. So if you look, numbers in front of the x, 12, 6, 18, 8, 19, 15, least number, Daniel. Daniel makes the least. Poor Daniel. Okay, so he makes the least per hour. The length of a side of a square is 3x plus 5. What's the area of this square in terms of x? Okay, I'm going to erase this over here about Daniel so I can make some room, and let's go with that. Okay, some of y'all like the box method, some of y'all like the vertical method, some of y'all like distributive property. The main point is, can you remember how to multiply? Like saying 3x plus 5, 3x plus 5. You know which method I prefer, so go with that. That's 25. 5 times 3 is 15x. 3 times 5 is 15x. 3 times 3 is 9x squared. Notice how it's x squared x number, and then that gives you 9x squared. 15 plus 15 is 30, and there you go. If you did it by box, it's better with sound effects, by the way. Alright, if you did it by box, 3x plus 5, 3x plus 5. 3 times 3 is 9x squared. 3 times 5 is 15x. 3 times 5 is 15x. 5 times 5 is 25. And you got to combine those two. Still will get 30x, so there you go. Same answer, same thing. Distributive property. I get to show you all three. Okay, distributive property would say that you're saying 3x plus 5 times 3x plus 5. So you would have to take this one, split it up, 3x plus 5. Take this one, write it twice, 3x plus 5, 3x plus 5. 3 times 3 is 9x squared. 3 times 5 is 15x. 5 times 3 is 15x. 5 times 5 is 25. And again, combine the ones in the middle. All those ways get you the same answer. So there you go, all three ways. Just remember which one you like best. I have more room on the next page, but oh well, too bad. Alright, which of the list of functions in order from narrowest to widest? Okay, so that technically means largest number to smallest. Again, ignore the sign here. So this is about the number in front of it, so you don't worry about the sign. So here, I got like 3, but then I got a negative 5. That negative 5 is going to be more narrow than the 3, even though it's facing down. So, A is not it. Negative 5, negative 3, 2/5, 1/3. 2/5 is 0.4. 1/3 is 0.3. It looks like my answer would be B. Okay. This one, C, goes actually 0.3, 0.4, 3, and 5. This one would have been from widest to narrowest. And then D is just wrong. D's just wrong. Okay, so there you go. What are the x-intercepts of the graph of the equation 8x squared plus 2x minus 3? Again, something like this, I would get out the calculator. So I'm getting out my calculator, and I would say graph. Okay, so where does it cross? Well, let's see here. Turning on my calculator, getting the graph page, and typing in 8x squared plus 2x minus 3. Press enter. And I can see it crosses at two different points here. one's between 0 and 1, and then the other one's between 0 and -1. So I'm looking for one negative fraction and one positive fraction. These ones are both negative. These ones are both positive. So it comes down to C or D. I could do a graph trace. I can pretty much tell. It looks like it's positive 1/2 based on what I'm seeing on my graph. But I'll do a graph trace. Numbers 5, 1, and I can see here it is at 0.5. So the answer is D. So I'll include a picture of that. Let me see if I can do that here. Actually, no, I won't, because I'll just explain that in class. Anyways, there's that problem, and so there you go. Okay, so the next one, what are the zeros of the quadratic function represented below? Again, keep in mind that the zeros are the x-intercepts. The x-intercepts are when it's x, some number for x, and 0 for y. So here's your first 0, -4. Okay, then you would look, oh no, not that one, but this one. There are your two zeros. So your zeros would be at -4 and -1. This one right here is a y-intercept, which does not count. Okay, so you're looking for when it's x number 0, y. Penny is dropped from the top of a 196-foot tall building. The height of the building, what's a reasonable range for this situation? Okay, so if this thing starts off at 196, you got to picture this. It starts off like this, and it's going to go down. Okay, and at some point it hits here. The main would be when it hits here, like from 0 to when it hits here. The range, though, is here from 196 all the way down to 0. So your range here is D. Obviously, it looks like it takes about 3.5 seconds for it to hit, so C would have been your domain. Alright, I'm going to do one last problem for part 2. No, actually I'll do 30 also. And then we'll kind of finish up here. But which of the following functions best describes the relationship between the independent and dependent variables shown below? Basically, you're just plugging in here, or you can graph these and see which one gives you that answer for x. Whoops, there goes me dropping my calculator. Shame on me. So I notice here that it is going down by a specific amount, so that would suggest to me dividing. 120 divided by 1 is 120, 120 divided by 2 is 60. Let me see here, control doc, 2 graphs, and then let's see, I want to say 120 divided by x, and again, you can press control enter, and you should be able to get that answer. Control T, and there you go, and this would match up. So that one's just, all you gotta do is plug it in. Should be able to get that fairly easy. Alright, so final one, find the volume of the figure. Volume just means multiply, so you just gotta multiply these three things. 5x times 4x times 3x. 5 times 4 is 20, times 3 is 60. X times x is x squared, times x again is x cubed, and there you go. That one they kept fairly simple, so go with the idea that it could get more harder. So don't forget, control T for this one, plugging these in. Here, just multiply. Okay? That's not a negative symbol, so just go with that. That was just me underlining. Anyways, that is it for this one. This is part 2, and now we'll finish up with part 3 later this weekend. Thank you very much. Good luck. Art writing notes might be helpful.